Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm Steven Conway. With me once again, after a week off, thank goodness, Jeremy Finestone here. We're contributors to the Fight Game Media Network. And I just want to say, Jeremy, welcome back. Glad you're here.
I got a new hat.
Yeah, and we have shows again. We have shows again. It's been a really long break, but we're back in the ring tomorrow. How are you feeling?
I am okay. It's glad to be back in the saddle. First off, thanks to Scott Edwards. I'm not going to get into it, but there has been a lot going on, and I am just very thankful that I was only able to miss one show because it certainly could have ballooned into other things, but not what we're here to talk about. But this is a nice respite to get back, talk about New Japan. This is going to be a fun one, Steven, because we like to treat this as we are informing people who might, be getting into New Japan for the first time. Well, have I got news for you? I'm not sure what these cards are. I've been so busy. So you're going to be telling me these cards, and I'm going to be having fun with the reactions. Maybe it's the way we should do it, because there's not a whole lot to talk about other than, Kevin Kelly.
Yeah, we're going to get into
news that we knew.
We're going to get into that in a moment. We're going to get into the lineups for the Destruction shows that are starting to come up and a few other things as they go on, including some more New Japan wrestlers in other promotions. There was a fairly big event earlier this week involving a couple that we'll get into. And I wanted to say very quickly to the folks watching live, hello, Brad. Good to see you back. Hadn't seen you, like you said, long time there. And Colin, of course. We almost forgot about us this week, but he didn't because Colin's a gamer. He's here for us today. So glad you're here, guys. Looking forward to chatting with you throughout the show. And like I said, we're going to talk about all those things. But first, I suppose, the news is what we already knew and suspected and things, that Kevin Kelly will be leaving the New Japan broadcast booth. As soon as he got the deal for Collision, you knew this was on the way. The only question is when instead of if. Here's what we know. Kevin mentioned that as part, he just wanted to be home with his family more. I don't know what the money situation is. My guess is that Collision pays a lot more than New Japan does. And of course, it's a better travel schedule for him, not having to be gone weeks at a time across the world. With that in mind, it sounds like he will also do Wrestle Kingdom this year. It sounds like he will be doing Destruction and Ryogoku this year. What we do not know is between that, will he be doing remote voiceovers for shows that are uploaded later? Will he be doing any remotely live, like Destruction in Kobe, for instance, or anything?
Shows that aren't announced that might require him to be there, that, for whatever reason, it's not his place to say. He'll be announcing a show that has not been formally announced, for example.
Yeah, and there, as we mentioned on the show last week, there are gaps in both New Japan and Stardom's schedule that could potentially end up being another historic crossover. That's not announced yet, but there are gaps in the schedule where that's possible. So there are shows that could show up, and there's shows that could pop up, and we don't know what Kevin is going to be doing and not doing. And as Colin mentioned, the only replacement I want is Ian Riccaboni. Ian's great. Ian's excellent. I question whether that's going to really work out because Ian does Ring of Honor, doesn't he? I mean, isn't he the Ring of Honor guy that on AEW's on Ring of Honor Fight Club? Isn't that true?
They do. He does Ring of Honor. There's also a thing that happened this past week on a Discord, on the Voices of Wrestling Discord.
Oh wow!
And so there was
as long as it's on Discord, it must be true.
Well, you're off of Discord, and you have reasons for not being on Discord, and this is probably one of them. There has been some question of whether Ian Riccaboni and Kevin Kelly are on the same page professionally and personally, and there were comments made by Ian Riccaboni that suggested that perhaps they were not the best of friends personally and professionally, and perhaps there was barriers to opportunities at some point or another, accusations that were made that were then screenshotted and shared elsewhere, and that became a little bit of a toxic moment. But Ian Riccaboni is an exceptionally talented announcer. Kevin Kelly is an exceptionally talented announcer. Their personal friendship or their personal anonymity with each other, it's irrelevant. Yeah. He would be a fantastic addition to New Japan. I don't know if the same scenario in which he's in Ring of Honor and Kevin Kelly is doing Collision, that there's really any time for them to be doing New Japan, and New Japan needs to commit to somebody that is whole cloth committed to New Japan rather than someone that's going to be poached for another promotion later on.
Yeah, it's a challenge, isn't it, to find somebody that's really good that isn't tied up. There's so much wrestling on TV right now, too. And so, and Brad has some thoughts here. This is pretty interesting information here. He says Ian is also on a school board. He's a big family guy, too. Don't think he wants to leave his family for weeks on end. And that's the key, isn't it? Yeah. If you're married, if you have a family, the New Japan job just gets more and more challenging to do. You
kind of have to be a cowboy. You have to be able to, get up and go and be gone and be okay that your life is in Japan.
Yeah. And Ian, I would love, there are other former WWE guys that do some independent shows out there floating around. And I know that everybody kind of bristles when they hear WWE guys, but keep in mind, a lot of them are better when they don't have someone screaming in their ear throughout the entire show, including Michael Cole, by the way, who I'm not putting over I'm not putting over Michael Cole as a great wrestling announcer by any stretch of the imagination. But here's what the point I'm making on that. If you go back and watch the UK tournament when NXT UK kicked off, only Triple H went over there. Vince didn't go. Listen to Michael Cole call that tournament and tell me he isn't about twice as good an announcer without somebody in his ear as he is with. I'm not saying that he should be the guy. I'm not saying he's a Hall of Fame.
I mean, Corey Graves is a quarter of a bit improved when Vince is in his ear. So you know that there's a baseline and an improvement when the person is there or not there.
So what I'm saying is, if they bring in somebody who has done WWE in the past, don't say, oh, Jesus, keep in mind, your job when you work for WWE isn't to be a good wrestling announcer. It's to be the wrestling announcer that they want. Mm-hmm. And those are two different things.
Yeah.
So it's two completely different. Michael Cole is
have to be a sports entertainment announcer in WWE.
Michael Cole is exactly what they want. He is doing his job exactly right. He is giving them what they want from an announcer. Mm-hmm. So two different things. And someone's skills might be totally different. For instance, I know that Kevin Patrick, his real name's Kevin Egan. He does soccer on MLS Plus, football, Colin. Don't worry, but he does soccer on on Apple TV Plus. Excuse me. So he's on some of the MLS packages, and he's totally different. He's a completely different guy on there than he is in WWE. So if someone does that, we know that there's very little input for Chris and Kevin. They are pretty much left to their own devices out there broadcasting, and it's worked out well for us. So
a guy like Larry Dallas might be good, but
maybe
they might be looking for somebody completely fresh that,
I'm a volunteer, by the way, if they want to send me over there, I'll do it anytime.
You would go to Japan and do
are you kidding me?
You would drop everything, your entire life.
Oh, I'd move there tomorrow.
And
I wouldn't even have to be involved
for a 3-year contract.
I wouldn't have to be involved in pro wrestling. If someone offered me a chance to move to Japan, I'd go. Like tomorrow. Like, here's my bag. I got my passport's up to date. I'm ready to roll. It's that great there. It's fantastic there. Let's see. Colin says, when folks slag Cole, I always say to them, listen to him commentate the UK tournament. Yep. It's a different thing. What they're doing on that is very different. What WWE wants is very different than what we want. And so, Mauro Ranallo, for instance, had done New Japan before. He's a name that keeps popping up. But again, when he did it, that was the New Japan Returns show, which was taped. He would go to a studio about once a month with Josh Barnett and record 4 shows at a time. He was able to do that, but he's got a pretty loaded schedule with Showtime Boxing and MMA. And I just don't see him going over there for weeks and weeks at a time and missing out on
need a company
major
guy.
bucks.
It's just they just need a guy that's like, okay, I'm in it for the long haul, at least 2 years, a contract for 2 years if it works out. Just somebody that's like, hey, you're the guy. And, I don't know if they're going to be able to maintain anyone for more than 2 or 3 years with the business acumen and the way that they're approaching it. Because if they're good, someone stateside will take them. And if they're bad, people ask for a new announcer, and they're not going to pay them too much. Yeah, they're not really a name. So there's a whole lot of factors that come into play here. What do you got?
Brad mentions that Cole did an alternate commentary track on the first Mick Foley DVD. I heard that and was blown away because he was actually good. Yeah, it's a tricky thing working for WWE. It's a whole different animal, and some people can and some people can do it well, and some people can't. And Cole gives them exactly what they want, but he is better than you think, actually. But again, that's irrelevant. He's not leaving WWE from New Japan. Brad says JR's contract is up pretty soon. Thank you, no thank you. No. And I know he's kidding. Brad's kidding too, but JR was horrible broadcasting New Japan. He was really awful. And the dirty secret about JR is it's actually been about 15 years since he was good at any wrestling announcing. He just hasn't been. Once he started just screaming for WWE, it went downhill, and he hasn't been too interested in anything else since. And you can hear like and there's a lot of goofy stuff on AEW that is for somebody who came up with Mid-South. And not everything on Mid-South was airtight. Not everything. That's a bit of a myth. If you go back and watch those shows, there's some holes in those plots too. But
let's go with this one right here. What's DJ talking about here?
We're gonna get to this in a second. But but I'm just saying that Jim Ross it's
no. I'm not on the Jim Ross train. There are many reasons to say no to Jim Ross.
DJ Convoy, KK, and any possible Kevin Kelly, any possible controversies aside, I think he's gotten progressively worse on comms since COVID. Too complacent, too comfortable. They get a little sidetracked sometimes, don't they? And there's the things that we've mentioned here before, where him kind of crapping on Kato Kiyomiya, and there have been some things where I think he maybe hasn't gotten as into the current product as he was. Perhaps there's some things about it. I don't disagree with you on that. I do think that Kevin is still among the best, but he's not at the peak he was, say, 2019 or so.
I get a little bit of Bob Uecker vibe to him right now, where it's like when he's just kind of spitballing with the talent that, like on the G1 and the people on the Best of the Super Junior, when he just had the tour and he was just bullshitting with the guys. Like, there was some fun to it, but there was also that sense of, like, if you're deep in the weeds on these shows and you're just watching everything, there's almost like the sense of, like, okay, we all know that he's bullshitting. We all know that, like, there's not much meat on the bone, so we're gonna have some fun with this right here. But when you get to the big shows and the shows that, like, everyone's watching, like, you kind of have to throw that shit out the window and get back to, like, business. And sometimes I think DJ's right. He loses sight of that. And it's just like, you still want to, like, pop the crowd. It's like, he's not Taz and he's not at the caliber. He does have a sense of humor that's a little dry. He's a little drier.
No, I like Taz a lot. Aside from screaming the names of wrestling moves, I don't know what purpose Excalibur serves, except speed reading those promos they feed.
Yeah, Taz and Excalibur are like popping each other every so often, and you're just like, you're catching it. It's like, okay, great. I don't.
Glad you guys are having fun. Wish I was.
Yeah, Kevin Kelly lets his hair down, but there is a little bit of like, okay, let's get back to business here, and I validate that. Yeah,
and I could do a little less the calling out to Oscar Loibe all the time too, like talking to Oscar during the broadcast, which I know he does a shtick, but I don't know if I need that.
I'm gonna miss Ichiban Sweet Boy. I'm gonna miss.
He will live forever off that. I call my dog that. Actually, I
made a mention of that to Paul Fontaine, and he just looked at me blankly, and I was like, "But." And I was just like, it's just a random thing.
Never mind. All right, so more comments because we're getting some really good ones here. Colin says, a pity Mauro Ranallo has issues health-wise. He'd be great. Yeah, but again, he's tied up with Showtime, and that's a good gig, man. He's doing some of the biggest fights in all of boxing. He's not going to give that up to go over to Japan a bunch of times for less money. He's just not going to. And he also does MMA, which he loves. So he's got a great gig. And, I don't think that's going to be changed. Making stuff up, particularly during G1, DJ Convoy says, and that he loved him from 2016 to 2019. Yeah. Again, there are some fair criticisms about Kevin. Lenny Leonard would be good, according to Brad Reeder. Dave Prazak is doing good work with GCW and has always been pretty solid. Dave Prazak, he was a hell of a manager for a while there. And, that's not a bad point. That guy can talk. And, but I don't know about play-by-play, but I don't know. I haven't heard a lot of him on straight commentary like that. I hope Chris Charlton stays because I love what Chris Charlton brings to the broadcast. I don't know if Dave does play-by-play there. Maybe he does. I don't see a whole lot of GCW, but Prazak's a hell of a talker and a damn fine manager in his day.
It's just so weird to think about going into 2024 and having a completely new announced team at some of these shows.
Yeah. And Colin, Taz is garbage on comms now. Well, yeah, sometimes these guys, I guess, I like Taz a little more than you do, Colin, but it's fair that they get a little inside, like you said, popping each other out there. And I have said before, so I'm glad you guys are having fun. I wish I were.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you think they just punt English commentary for a bunch of shows and then just go back to and just have English commentary for like shows that they know are going to have like higher visibility or they know Charlton can be there for?
They could go a lot of different ways. I think they might even go with somebody working remotely, and so that they don't even have to fly them over and put them in a hotel the whole time. I mean, there's a lot of ways they could go. Keep in mind, New Japan is bringing in less money than when Kevin's been going over, but he's been going over there a lot. But when things picked up on the English commentary track with Kevin and Chris and all that, the business was a hell of a lot better. It was before the pandemic. So, just paid to bring Brad wants him to pay Eddie Kingston to come over and be the color guy to Chris's thing. Yeah, I mean,
but Tony is paying Eddie Kingston a lot of money to be 10th man on the totem pole instead of just shooting him to the moon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure Eddie would like to do it a little bit, but I don't know if he wants to go.
Bro, like, we'll go into it later, but I was gobsmacked on that finish of that tag match last week.
No, yeah. Well, Tony has had a lot to think about lately outside of booking his show.
That's what it is.
He has. And, there's a lot going on there that, of course,
I'm sorry. As much as I want to give Tony credit because he's got a lot on his plate.
Yeah, that booking's been
nonsensical. Always has a lot on his plate.
Yeah, he does, and it's been less sensical than usual, and it's usually pretty nonsensical. So we'll see how it goes. And after that Collision rating, he's probably not feeling any better out there. Apparently, nobody watched that show. That was a rough one on Collision, and football season's not going to make it any better. So we'll have to see. I mean, really,
past weekend.
Everything we've said has been supposition here because we have not heard any leads on anyone. They're not talking about it. And since they have Kevin until the end of the year, they might not be working on it quite yet too hard. I'm sure they have a list of people in mind.
Deep in the weeds, there are whispers that they already have their guy and it's a name that nobody's heard of.
Oh, okay.
So it's possible. I don't know anything other than like you go to kind of the New Japan subreddit and you go a couple of these discords and some people are speaking pretty confidently that there's a guy on the way, but it's New Japan time to. You know what I mean? Like
that's easy to say on the internet. Of course, there's a guy. Of course, there's a guy on the way. They're not going to not do it.
That's why I'm saying the internet rumors in the deep corners are saying that like they already have their guy. And it's a name that nobody's heard of. And that's all I'm offering to you right now.
All right.
It's not going to be a Kevin Kelly level replacement to replace Kevin Kelly. And that is, first and foremost, the thing that we all need to take away from this is that there will be a significant loss unless it is someone like Ian Riccaboni that, like there's a 20% chance it's Ian Riccaboni if it's going to Japan. I got no problem with the Ian Riccaboni doing stateside shows. Be freaking great, with Veda and, the whole crew. Awesome. But we're talking about Japan, like the big shows, the things that we're all checking in on. And, every week, every month talk about that big show in Japan. Who's going to be the guy calling it and whether we're going to be happy with the guy or not happy. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Just saying I'm free. So there we go. So, in the meantime, we have shows again. Shows again start up tomorrow, and the Road to Destruction tour begins. And we have a lot of shows coming up for the wrestlers, not so many for us on NJPW World. Only a few of these are going to be shown. Now, to be fair, most of the midweek shows are very much house show lineups. So we're talking multi-man tags, and not a whole lot going on there as far as storyline goes. It's going to be, the people that are in the big title matches looking good. I'm sure, the usual suspects taking the falls in those matches and things. So, but we do have 3 shows this weekend that are going to be on NJPW World. Friday and Saturday at Korakuen Hall. So that's tomorrow morning and then Saturday morning. 2 shows at Korakuen. And then Sunday in Chiba, that's going to be the Blue Justice show. That's the annual show that is, it's promoted. Yuji Nagata promotes whenever they go to Chiba, but this is the big Blue Justice show where he's always in the main event. They have something pretty cool for it this year. And so these shows will be on NJPW World with Japanese commentary immediately. We're not sure when the English is going to be uploaded on there. And then after that, most of the midweek shows are not going to be on World. We'll get one on the 17th in Fukuoka. And then we jump to Destruction in Kobe on the 24th. And then again, skip a few more before going back to Korakuen Hall for September 30th as we move closer to Destruction at Ryogoku. So,
did you know that September 8th show is free on New Japan World?
Yes, it is. So that's a good chance to look. And there's going to be some interesting stuff on that. And we're going to go through the lineup here. And I guess I'll just read it off to you. What do you say?
Let's do it. Show me what you got.
First match, we'll just go, since we have time, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way up to the big stuff. We'll build anticipation here. First match is Yo and Ryusuke Taguchi against Doki and Uncle Nobu, Yoshinobu Kanemaru. So there you go. And, again, a lot of these are preview tags, not a whole lot of storyline to them right here. Second match, 20-minute time limit is Oscar Loibe, Master Wato, Shota Umino, and Yuji Nagata against Tomoaki Honma, El Desperado, Ren Narita, and Minoru Suzuki. So what we're getting in this one is a little bit of a preview of the best of 7 series that's going to begin this weekend. So Loibe and Honma are added in on either side, but Wato, Umino, and Nagata are going to be facing off with Despi, Narita, and Suzuki. They have positioned Umino and Ren Narita as a modern version of Nagata and Suzuki in such that they can't be in the same building without fighting each other. And so they're paired up. And then Wato and Desperado is in there as you have, the New Japan tournament, the junior tournament winner against the classic contender. So everyone's paired off neatly in this.
Is Shota and Ren the hottest feud coming out of the G1?
It's the one that I'm most interested in. Yeah, I would say it is right now. The whole idea of Naito versus Sonata is pretty exciting, but as far as just a feud where
simmering
two guys
right now, like this is just this is in your face, like this is coming, and this is coming like right now.
Especially since we've already seen Finlay and Tama Tonga, I'm sure they're going to have a fine match. But we've seen Umino and Ren, I guess, but it feels a little fresher.
Yeah. So they started going into the G1 feuding with each other, and they have come out of the G1 feuding with each other. So they essentially just paused, so they could fight a bunch of other people, and now they picked up where they left off, and
eternal foes.
I'm here for it.
Eternal foes. And that was the story with Suzuki and Nagata, that they would always circle around to one another because they came up at around the same time. And that's what they're trying to tell us here, so it's a new generation of that. Colin asks, so these 3 shows are Japanese commentary only? No, what we're saying is right now we know that they're going to be live with Japanese commentary. When the English is uploaded, we're not sure. But New Japan World lists them as being both in Japanese and English. We're not. It might be one of those things where Kevin goes into the studio and records them a couple of days later. It could be that.
I have a super hard time with New Japan World putting up a show for free to introduce people to the product and not having English commentary.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we might get that. But Kevin will be in the United States. He's going to be in Collision on Saturday.
I think Chris Charlton will still be there,
they've done that before where Chris is there in the arena and Kevin's remote and they do the show from. I think they even did somewhere, Kevin was at his house in the United States. The show was in Hiroshima, and Chris was sitting in the New Japan studios are in Tokyo. So they've done it a bunch of different ways over time. Third match: Toru Yano, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto. So you have Bishamon teaming up with Yano to
Bishimano.
Wow! I bow to your greatness. That was fantastic. And with TMDK and Bad Dude Tito back in Japan. Jeremy, we're thrilled. We haven't seen him in a long time. So Big Tito's back.
I love Tito. He had a good showing, a couple shows in the summertime that I saw, and I was like, that dude just needs to get back to Japan, and I'm glad that they've made time for it.
And we're going to see a new member of the United Empire also this coming weekend. We'll talk about that when we get to him. But this is a preview of the World Tag Team title match. So TMDK will be challenging Bishamon. So there's very little doubt that, in my mind anyway, that they're going to look pretty good in this match anyway. We got to get that whole thing over. So TMDK, the challengers eventually to Bishamon.
Is that the right feud for the tag titles right now? We know we got the World Tag League, and we got some news for that I can share with you guys later on about dates and times for that. But I don't know. Are they tag team champion level, Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste?
Sure.
Could you see them with the tag titles right now?
I don't think. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think they could. I mean, they like to keep belts in various factions and all that, and there might be a reason why TMDK needs one, but that could be coming in another direction anyway. But I mean, TMDK is a great tag team. I don't think there's any credibility gap there. I mean, they haven't been in New Japan that long, but they just showed them to everybody through the G1.
I don't know. Shane Haste act during the G1 was hysterical.
Well, I'm just saying that they're a legit, really good tag team. So
they are a fantastic team. I did not like his shtick, but at the same time, I just want to know what your vibe was on that.
I think it's a coin flip for me as to whether or not they keep. My guess is the Bishamon keeps them, but that's a guess.
I think so.
Brad Reeder says the NJPW World Twitter says the show will be free with English commentary. So my guess is that Kevin and Chris will be working. Chris might be in Tokyo, but Kevin will probably be doing it from home. My guess, anyway. Up next, we have another preview here. This is we have a trios title match coming that we'll talk about. Here's the preview for this one. Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Tomohiro Ishii teaming up with Yuto Nakashima, bless his heart, the young lion in there, against the team that will be challenging them for the trios titles. That will be Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, and Hiroshi Tenzan, the match that nobody wanted. And they're like I said, they're going to have Satoshi Kojima on their side there. So Tiger Mask, Togi Makabe, Kojima, and Tenzan. Again, I'm repeating this. Tenzan, Makabe, and Tiger Mask challenging for the trios titles against Okada, Tanahashi, and Ishii. I know where my money is on that one. Where's yours, Jeremy?
I am gonna say that I am with the champion side on this one. They could go horribly wrong.
They're not belting Tiger Mask and Tenzan?
No. And I think I'm gonna laugh here because I thought it was funny that we have Satoshi Kojima, and I just saw the image for this. The leader of Bread Club got put into the match to oppose Yuta Nakashima, whose head looks like a loaf of bread.
Oh, that's an interesting point. And just a real quick note here. DJ Convoy says, I was on record on the Big Audio Nightmare calling Haste a dollar store version of Tom Lawler.
I was vibing that one pretty early. It's like, I got no problem with Shane Haste. I got no problem with Shane Haste in this tournament. But if Shane Haste is just going to do Tom Lawler's shtick, you might as well just brought Tom Lawler in.
Yeah, go get Tom Lawler. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right there with you, DJ. Right there with you.
So, I don't think those titles are going anywhere. But the next match has the new guy. So what we're seeing here is the United Empire and facing LIJ. So on the LIJ side, usual suspects: Naito, Shingo, Yota Tsuji, Hiromu Takahashi. On the United Empire side, we have Jeff Cobb, Great-O-Khan, Henare, and Callum Newman. Now, Callum Newman has been on working in the British scene, and what I hear about him, Jeremy, the only thing I really hear about him, let me rephrase that. The thing I hear over and over about him is that he is really quick, like really fast, quicker than a hiccup type of speed guy. So I'm looking forward to seeing him. I am not all that familiar with his work, so I'm looking forward to seeing him this weekend. They paired him up with Hiromu Takahashi, so I have no doubt that Hiromu will do his usual job of making any of his opponents look like a star, and I think this is going to work out. But Callum Newman, the latest member of United Empire, coming in to face LIJ tomorrow.
Did they vet this guy any better than Drilla Maloney?
Yeah, Drilla's been good in his role there.
Yeah,
you mean they turned on him? Oh, you mean they turned? Oh, yeah. Well, let's hope so.
Like they just bringing in guys and just not doing any background checks on these guys at this point. Just
Pardon me, I
taking the
didn't
word
pick
of
up on it.
Gideon Gray.
Yeah.
This guy's solid. He's good. We got to
Yeah.
throw out a Gideon Gray reference every so often here.
Gideon fell off the face of the damn earth, didn't he? We haven't seen Gideon in a long time.
I am intrigued, very intrigued. There is a sense, though, that, okay, All-Star Junior Festival, Multiverse United 2, I kind of just want Hiromu Takahashi to stop fucking around and, start wrestling some banger matches again. Just, it's been a while, and it's just kind of let's get to it. I don't know why we're cooling our jets right now. I know we got the Junior Tag League coming up in next month, and he's going to have some feuds, but Callum Newman really impressed me to have him be the guy that Hiromu's feuding with right now, because I kind of want them to step on the gas a little bit.
We'll see how that turns out. And Hiromu has been having good matches, but they've been in Mexico. We haven't been able to see him. He's been in CMLL. He did the double pin with Mystico over there at not too long ago at Arena Mexico. So he's been around. He's been all over the world, really. Philadelphia, Mexico City. Now he's back in Tokyo. So the next one is the title match of the night, and it is for the World TV title. It is Zack Sabre Jr. facing Boltin Oleg. So this is an intriguing one here. And I talked to Scott about this last week. We both had the same general feeling. I'm curious if you do as well. The original idea for the TV title was to have the matches available on social media, Twitter, YouTube, all this kind of stuff. They're going to mention that they also mentioned that the title was meant for younger wrestlers. Now, they put it on Zack to establish it. Zack has done a brilliant job doing that. He's wrestled around the world with it. He's wrestled some of the top wrestlers out there with it, had that terrific series with Jeff Cobb and numerous other ones. And we talked about whether it is time to go ahead and really pull the trigger on someone that they obviously are treating differently than the other young lions, Boltin Oleg. And since Zack might be a soon-to-be UK champion, because somebody else might be leaving, and has a title match at Royal Quest for, possibility to get that UK title, is it time to move this one off of Zack to someone else? Both of us agree it would be a very gutsy move for Gedo to make, and both of us agreed he's not going to do it. So
okay, there we go. I was nope.
Yeah, we almost talked ourselves into it until we sat there and said that would be so gutsy. They almost certainly won't do it because, again, New Japan very conservative with bringing people along. There are only been a few rockets strapped to anyone. Hiromu had one. Okada had one. Not all that many others. It always feels like their crowning moments come after we feel like they should, and I have a feeling this is going to be the same thing. I don't know what they do with that TV title, though, because I think there's a pretty good chance they transition that US UK title off of Will to Zack, because Will sounds for all intents and purposes like he's going.
You're jumping the gun on all that stuff.
I just don't think it necessarily happens here with Boltin, but thoughts on this? Does he make the time limit, or is this just going to be Boltin having a good match and losing?
I think it's Boltin having a good match and losing.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a finesse versus power kind of story going, where Bolton's almost catching him, beating the shit out of Zack, but Zack, napalm death, whatever move that he pulls off. The fair lady of the UK, whatever clever name that he's got. It's going to be a spotlight match, but this is just a random free match. It's a free show, they could do it, but it's the semi-main on a card that's the beginning of a tour. What, you're going to have Boltin Oleg defending the title at the end of the tour or whatever? Everything is just too early. It just doesn't feel like this is the guy right now to shoot everything to the moon. You save that for a big fish. And Boltin Oleg is a big guy, but he's not a big fish.
Okay. And Colin is asking, when is the triple threat match for the junior title? That is coming off the angle of Multiverse United and the All-Star Junior Festival. That will be with Lio Rush and Mike Bailey challenging Hiromu. That'll be a great match. And it's going to be October 9th at Destruction in Ryogoku. So Hiromu has some things to do. He can't really do previews because Leo Rush and Mike Bailey aren't over for this part of the tour. So he's going to be working with Callum Newman in there. And Brad is asking, in your opinion, who takes it from ZSJ? It's a good question. I mean, who do you think would be a good choice to fill that spot?
Shingo Takagi.
For the TV title?
Yep. 15-minute matches with Shingo Takagi all over the place.
I could see them
It would be different. It would be different than what Zack does. And that's the key thing, is that if you just do what Zack Sabre does with those matches, there's no point in taking the belt off of him. When it's time to switch it up and time to do like speed matches, I am 100% on board with that. You could also have Hiromu drop the junior heavyweight title and have a 15-minute like sprint matches here or there, one of the junior heavyweight guys, but it seems like a main event kind of title. So if you're going to do that, it needs to be, a guy that's hold at least the NEVER Openweight title at some point.
I don't know if Zach's main evented too much with this thing. He's been on other shows, but I would. How about El Phantasmo?
I wouldn't make it the first title he held, but I would kind of.
Well, it hasn't been. He's held like the junior titles.
I would point him in the direction of the NEVER Openweight title before I would put him on the TV title path.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. Shingo's the guy that I kind of like circled of like you could belt Shingo with any title in that promotion, and I think that he revolutionized the King of Pro Wrestling title when he had it. And he went up and down, had different kind of matches. If you don't think that Shingo Takagi can just do like these sprint matches and then win or go to draw and then, have a match that goes longer than 15 minutes, whatever, like that's the kind of thing that I see him doing.
I'll toss out another name right here for the title. And Brad mentions that Hanare could be a solid choice. Yep, sure could. Another person who's starting to show a little bit of personality is just on that border between junior and heavy. Yo, if you're going to take a title, and again, this TV title isn't necessarily a main event title. It's something that, and they even mention it's for younger wrestlers and things. And it just is a possibility over there. That might not be a bad choice to try to get him going a little bit too, because they seem interested in doing so. Because Yo has been showing a lot more personality lately. He hasn't been losing as much as he was for a while. It seems like perhaps just kind of spitballing that.
Do you think they put it on one of the Three Musketeers or the Reiwa? The Yoda, Shota, or Ren?
Yeah, I mean, I thought they were going to. I thought that's who was going to start it off. I thought that's how they were going to start it off, with one of those guys taking it, but they haven't quite done that yet. So it has to be somebody. The
more I think about it, the more I'm putting my money on Shingo. But that's just a random throw a dartboard at the entire roster of New Japan and who would be your guy. He's high enough on the card, and it keeps the title have value, but at the same time, there makes sense for him wanting the challenge of doing these 15-minute matches.
The main event on the 8th at Korakuen Hall is going to be a preview of two different upcoming title matches. Of course, one is Sonata and Evil. They'll be on opposite sides. They're partners. Sonata will be paired up with Taichi, and Evil's partner will be the man challenging for the King of Pro Wrestling title, Sho. So it's Evil and Sho for House of Torture against Taichi and Sonata for just 5 guys. So, classic, just taking two different singles titles matches and making a tag team main event out of it with the world champion involved. So, I don't think anyone in the world thinks Evil's winning that belt.
Neither of these few can really do it for me, bud.
And we don't know the stipulations for Sho and Taichi. My guess is in some of these previews, things will happen during the match that will lead us to whatever stipulations they offer up.
So Evil still has Sonata's belt, right? Did you hear about that? Sonata went to Impact Emergence and he didn't have his belt because Evil took it. And
he'll probably
that'll be the story. I think going into it is that Evil is holding Sonata's belt hostage.
He'll probably get it back at somewhere on the road there. So
that seems logical. Yeah.
We will have the Road to Destruction on Saturday the 9th. Here we have a card for that one too. I can read it off here for you. We have Satoshi Kojima leading off against Oscar Loibe in a little showcase for Loibe. Kojima who's worked with these young lions quite a bit.
Jumping from Yuta to Loibe. Man, leapfrogging partners.
Second match, that's his opponents. Second match, 20-minute time limit. Yo and Taguchi again against Takamichi Noku and Doki. 3 guesses. The first 2 don't count as to who's taking the fall in that one. Here you go. Brett is saying Sanada should come out with the old IWGP belt. That'd be cool. I wouldn't mind seeing that again. So I heard AEW is going to redo some of their titles again. So why not? We already have 50 of them.
They redesigned the trio titles when the House of Black to the Acclaimed won it. They changed it from the dark and gloomy belt to belts that basically have scissors on the end. So when you take the end of the belt and it's got the serrated scissors, they take their belt and they all scissor each other with their belts at the very end. I'm
kind of there for the customized belts. I'm kind of there for it. I enjoy
there's money in it, and they're all about making money.
No, it's a smart move marketing wise, and also it just kind of it's having a little bit of the wrestler's own touch to it. I kind of enjoy that. I think
start with side plates, and then you just create whole belts. Sure.
Well, Cena had the spinner belt. Daniel Bryan had the wood sustainable belt, which I thought was really fun.
Bray Wyatt, God bless him, had the Bray belt.
Yeah, you can do stuff like that.
The Fiend belt.
The Fiend belt. The first time I really remember seeing something like that, Jeremy, goes all the way back to. Remember how the Ultimate Warrior would change the
white color, Intercontinental title?
Well, he would change the color of the strap to match his outfit.
Yeah.
That's the first time I remember doing that. Otherwise, belts always looked alike when I was a kid. They always stay. They would change it once in a while. I remember when the NWA World Title changed. Hulk Hogan went through a few different designs of the WWF heavyweight title and things. That was the first time I remember it changing on a regular basis. But it was just the strap, not the plates. But anyway, little belt.
Do you think somebody should beat Gunther for the Intercontinental title the same way that Ultimate Warrior beat Honky Tonk Man in 30 seconds?
No. That needs to be an epic struggle there. That one right there. Right. But that was a good example, by the way, of how to launch someone. Ghetto. You can look at that. That was a good launch. He wasn't a good wrestler. That was a good launch. The third match there, 20-minute time limit. We have once again a preview of the best of 7 series we're talking about. So Suzuki, Narita, Desperado, and Nakashima against Hanma flipping sides. So on Friday at Korakuen Hall, Hanma is teaming with Strong Style, the Suzuki's team. On Saturday, he's teaming with the other side, Nagata, Umino, Wato. So there you have it. Hanma just trying to latch on wherever he can. Bless his gravelly voiced heart.
Holy crap, that's amazing. I just saw that. I'm looking at the graphics back and forth company man, just wherever you need me, I'll just wrestle.
I double-checked it to make sure I didn't do that wrong. I was just like, wait a damn second. Did he?
No, that's amazing. What a mercenary.
So whatever happens in the TV title match, we'll have a bit of a clash again here. We have the TMDK group of Bad Dude Tito, Shane Haste, and Mike Nichols, and Zack Sabre Jr., so it's an 8-man tag this time, against Boltin Oleg, Toru Yano, and Bishamon.
Bishamano
Oleg. So there it is. And then the 5th match, 30-minute time limit. Yoshinobu Kanemaru, Taichi, and Sanada. So we have 3 of the 5 guys against Sho, Evil, and Yujiro Takahashi. Thank God Yujiro's back.
You missed him, huh?
No.
Just longing your heart for some Yujiro in your life.
This is something that Scott and I talked about too. We think that he might be the only bad wrestler on either roster. He's the only bad wrestler working for Bushiroad.
Deep hurt. What did he do to you?
It bored me to tears. That's what he did to me.
I look at this graphic and I'm like, Yoshinobu Kanemaru does not look like a babyface. There's actually nobody really looks like a babyface in this graphic of Taichi, Kanemaru, and Sanada. And then you got the House of Torture. By the way, my fantasy football team name in Fight Game Media team, take it to the House of Torture.
Oh, nice. I got to say, that's pretty good. The one that the funniest one in my girlfriend's league, I don't play fantasy football, but my favorite one in my girlfriend's league is unsolicited Dak picks for Dak Prescott. I enjoyed that one. So but we have this one. By the way,
I just got it.
There it is. Uncle Nobu, by the way, having his influence is still being felt in Stardom. And what I mean by that is not too long ago, the Oedo Tai, the heels in Stardom, blow mist the traditional pro wrestling mist thing. Well, Natsupoi, having teamed up with Uncle Nobu at Historic Crossover last year, did the whiskey blast in the face to get out of that. And she just did it again in the 5-Star Grand Prix, where she grabbed a whiskey bottle and ducked the mist and spit it in the face. I think it was Natsuko Toro.
Collaborative effort.
His influence still being felt. Uncle Nobu, a real trendsetter in pro wrestling. Next, we have the title match of the night here in the second night at Korakuen Hall. This is the Never Openweight Six-Man Tag Team title match I talked about earlier. So it's Makabe, Tenzan, who got surprisingly over for a little while there during the during the tournament. In the end, that weekend there at the G1, people love a little nostalgia act there of Tenzan. So he's got a title match with Tiger Mask against Ishii, Tanahashi, and Okada. And this should be an easy, you would think an easy win for the Chaos team, unless there's some sort of angle coming out of this. I can't.
Okay, I thought they were going to angle back in May when they were facing the team of Strong Style for the titles.
No, you're right.
I don't necessarily think anything's happening to embarrass Okada until Okada has whatever dream match is going to be happening at Wrestle Kingdom. And
no, I agree with you. I agree with
numbers. Tanahashi may get pinned at some point. Ishii may get pinned at some point. Whatever. I don't think this is going to be the night for it. But whatever happens for Okada is just going to be, just look at Wrestle Kingdom. That's the big fish at the end in the pond that we're looking at with
this is Okada. A really weird title match, though, isn't it? It's really weird.
It's a match to have because they're just like half the guys are injured. Half the guys are recuperating from the G1. We're 3 weeks removed. They're throwing a bunch of guys in here that, frankly are fresh, if anything at all. They got great reactions at the G1 finals or whatever. They're like, fuck it, let's strike while the iron's hot with these guys. And so here we go. If they win, we're going to be having a completely different conversation next week. I don't think we're having that conversation.
I'm not too worried about it either. And the main event on Saturday is an elimination match. So this is an all-skate. And we have Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Yota Tsuji, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito, so all of LIJ basically, not involving Titan, who's still over in Mexico, facing the UE contingent of Callum Newman, Henare, Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay. So Ospreay back in Japan. He is working the run-up to Destruction in Kobe, and then he's wrestling at Destruction in Kobe. So far, he is not on the house shows after that, leading up to Ryogoku. Just saying right now, he's not showing up after Kobe. He seems to be going back.
Not around for the shows that coincide with Wrestle Dream in Seattle.
Yeah, and he's about the only one. Bishamon, the other two that right now are not.
And TMDK. Zack Sabre Jr. and TMDK are also. But they're all over the place, all over Ring of Honor. I don't know if that's really a special deal to have them on an AEW show. But it's also when he's going to another show and he's got another promotion and he potentially shows up in, Ring of Honor and AEW, it's better to have the belt on him than, Boltin Oleg, who ain't going anywhere with that belt and showing that belt off as something to go after. That's still the other reason that I'm just like, I don't think Oleg's the guy, and who could be a guy comparable to Zack Sabre Jr. showing up, a guy like Shingo or whatever.
I'm not really sure this Wrestle Dream actually has anything to do with Antonio Inoki. I think he remembered that Antonio Inoki died on October 1st afterwards, and he probably just thought of it on the way to the press conference.
I really want a Rambo on the show.
Road to Destruction.
You can mute me anytime.
Blue Justice 13 will be Sunday, September 10th. That is in Chiba, of course, the Togane Arena. And this is the show that is promoted and starring Yuji Nagata. They do this every year. And most of the time when they're in Chiba, he promotes the show. That's where, that's where he's from. So he's
was it really a year ago that Blue Justice happened? I feel like it wasn't that long ago.
No, I think it was. I don't think it was that long ago. There's one every year, but I don't think it's like on a specific date. But this is the 13th Blue Justice.
Okay.
So here we go. First match, 20-minute time limit. We have Oleg, Tiger Mask, Makabe, and Tenzan against not the six-man tag champions. This is against Loibe, Nakashima, Honma, and Kojima. That's the opener there. Obviously, Nagata is going to be in the main event there, but that's the first match. So
I
second
kind of
match.
think with them opening kind of gives away that they may not be winning the titles the night before.
Yeah, I don't think so. But Yano and Tanahashi team up. So you get that whole, Toru and Hiroshi, the manga pairing against Yo and Ryusuke Taguchi. So that's the second match. Big babyface match. And here we have Ishii, Yoshihashi, Goto, and Okada. So a different version of the Chaos group there. We have Bishamon with Ishii and Okada. Pure Chaos, not no Hantai guys in there. Against TMDK, Sabre, and Bad Dude Tito, which low-key might be a hell of a good match.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Is one of those matches that, especially getting Ishii and Bad Dude Tito, they've been in there and mixed it up a couple of times. And that's one of those mean guy face-offs that you get. Ishii also, he had a gnarly match with Mikey Nichols at the G1 that people did not enjoy or did not recommend going out of your way, but legitimized Nichols in a lot of ways, I would say. So this one could be a little messy.
And then as Brad mentions, Ishii and Bad Dude Tito squaring off, or Big Teats. Sorry, I would hate to miss an opportunity to say Teats on
Get it right.
Ishii and Big Teats squaring off will rock, and yes, it will. Those two are fabulous. So that'll be a nice little match up there. I'm looking forward. Of all the matches over the course of the weekend, the ones I'm most looking forward to right there. Fourth match, 30-minute time limit. Bushi, Shingo Takagi, Tetsuya Naito against Henare, Great-O-Khan, and Jeff Cobb. Also ought to be pretty decent.
Bushi.
Yeah,
nice
it's not looking good for Bushi in that one, is it? Not looking good.
Nice knowing you, buddy.
Really, yeah, it's so hard being the only guy not protected in a faction. It's really tough. And then we have Callum Newman and Will Ospreay against Yota Tsuji and Hiromu Takahashi. So the heavyweight clash, Ospreay, of course, and Tsuji. That's a preview of their match. Callum Newman and Hiromu Takahashi paired off with them. So no doubt that'll be a lot of fun to watch.
I feel like they just want to show off Callum Newman. They think they got the goods with him, and it's just like, all right, buddy, let's go. So
yeah, absolutely.
I am excited that they are just putting him in the middle with Hiromu Takahashi. But, with all the different things that he's got going on, I'm not sure what what we're supposed to look at with him. Are they going to end up making this a four-way? Have Leo Rush pin Callum Newman for the title and then have Hiromu chasing him? That's something that they could do.
I mean, they might just have Callum Newman over there because they couldn't get Leo and Mike for this swing of the tour, and you just have to pair Hiromu up with someone for a while. So there might not be anything more to it than, hey, we heard this kid's pretty good, we'll give him a look. That really could
probably be it.
Because they do have, remember, after Kobe, they have another couple of weeks of house shows where the cast changes a little bit. Some of the guys go back and other people come out. So after that, we have the sixth match: Doki, Kanemaru, Taichi, and Sonata. So 4 of the 5 guys against Dick Togo, Yujiro Takahashi, Sho, and Evil. So again, we're going to be seeing a lot of these tags with Taichi and Sho, Sonata and Evil on opposite sides as we build toward those 2 title matches.
Yeah, this is not what I'm here for again, but it should be fine. It's like they're passing the time. The way that I look at it with Sonata is he is going through all of his best of feuds and people and things. He'll probably end up having a match with Shingo at some point. He's got the match with Evil. He's going through Naito. It's going to be an LIJ best of tour for a bunch of this. And, it's like, if you aren't prepared for the fact that Sonata is just going to be running through all these guys, that's what's going to be happening for the next 4 months. And it starts with Evil. I'm thankful that they're getting it out of the way now.
The main event is the first of the best of 7 series between the team of Master Wato, Shota Umino, and Yuji Nagata against Ren Narita, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki. Of course, Nagata in the main event of his Blue Justice show. And this is the first of a best of 7 that I'm looking forward to watching. I'm excited about these matches. I have little doubt it will go to all 7 and wind up back at the big Destruction show. But that's the way these usually work in wrestling, isn't it? If pro wrestling booked tennis, everything would be a 5-set match. These guys would be exhausted.
What team would you have win this?
Jeez, I mean, I really don't. I I think my guess is strong style, and here's the only reason I'm getting the only reason, and I might talk myself out of this in a week, but the minor story, the side story to this, is Minoru Suzuki calling Ren Narita a little weak coming through the G1, right? He just kind of says, he just kind of takes it. He doesn't stand up for himself. I think the story might be that in the end, Narita comes through and shows, because this isn't a story of, it doesn't come off as a story of Suzuki getting ready to turn on him. Mm-hmm. It comes through as more of Suzuki trying to motivate him. That's the way it comes off to me. So with that little side story going, I think that we might end up with Narita coming through for the strong style team and Minoru either shaking his hand or giving him a forearm shiver or something like that and just saying, okay, maybe there is a spine in there, that type of thing. That's what I've been looking to see. I think that might be where it ends up.
I think you're probably right on that. I would be surprised if Yuji Nagata isn't standing tall in the middle of the ring at the end of the Blue Justice show, which is the first match of this tournament.
Sure.
I also think Strong Style potentially wins this, but when we get to a singles match between Shota and Ren afterwards, Shota wins that singles match. So everybody kind of gets a takeaway out of it. That kind of reads right to me out of the whole, like, the feud between the 3-on-3.
Do you agree with me that this is headed towards some sort of special challenge match at Kingdom between those two?
I think Ren and Shota at Wrestle Kingdom is likely, if not guaranteed.
Yeah. And some housekeeping here. Brad mentions that Leo Rush is working with Impact this weekend. Victory Road tomorrow against Kushida for the X Division title. That'll be good. Which I'm going to. And then Impact's 1000th episode on Saturday. So, yeah, again, Callum Newman might be just there to fill the roster spot because they can't get the challengers quite yet. So that might be kind of...
I had wondered if Kushida would be a guy that they'd pull for Wrestle Dream with the New Japan, stink on him. And I don't even know if he's a big enough name anymore to be that kind of pull for the show.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that thing saying it's devoted to Inoki is kind of a Tony Khan brain fart more than anything else. Because you wouldn't have booked, you wouldn't have done it on a day when they were so booked up, all that. So I think that was kind of a throwaway thing from Tony. So
I got a question for you before we go forward. Did you catch this Julia's title match against Risa Sera?
I haven't watched it yet. I am up to match 4 on that show from this past weekend, and but I had to cut it off to come do this.
I didn't even realize that she had a title defense.
Yeah.
So, knowing that it happened, you have a leg up on me because I wanted to know if you knew anything about it because it's a New Japan Strong title, and she had her 3rd title defense on it.
Yeah, well, of course. Risa Sera is not a full-time Stardom worker, so Julia retained, of course, but pretty good match there. From what I heard, I haven't seen the match yet, but it was more of a placeholder title defense before she gets to Las Vegas on the 25th when I will be in attendance, and I guess Brad will be at the big show. What is it, Saturday? I guess, isn't it right? Is that what he said?
Do you get worried? That
no, tomorrow against Kushida. What's that?
Do you get worried that the Julia and Mercedes Moné match might not happen with Mercedes showing up in London?
A little bit. I hope that deal is already done for whenever it is that she can do it, whenever it is Mercedes can do it. But keep in mind, we don't know that Mercedes has a deal with AEW, although I don't think they would have shown her if she didn't. But we don't know what it is. She could be just doing a couple of dates for them. Right now, being a free agent has worked out pretty damn well for her, aside from the injury, of course. But
sure.
Which could have happened anytime. That's not to do with being a free agent. But showing up when she wants against who she wants and getting paid huge money for it, that's not a bad way to live your life.
No, she's a wanted woman around the world, and tip my cap to her. It seems like with one Bill Phil gone from AEW, there might be plenty of money to be paid elsewhere.
Yeah, they do have a little bit of cash.
They might be able to get an edge in the market for talent that is not working elsewhere.
That's one
An
way
edge.
to spend a lot of money for. Yeah, I mean, that would be a way to spend money, is bringing in.
I feel like you don't even know me.
Oh boy, the Edge Christian reunion, Jesus Christ. Well, all right, I'm getting a headache. Let's move on. We have Nagaoka on Sunday, September 3rd, in front of 1,560 people. I'm bringing up this show. This is an all Japan show in Nagaoka, but it features some New Japan stars. Now, Satoshi Kojima won the Royal Road tournament. That's a little bit like the New Japan Cup, Jeremy. It's a single elimination tournament they have every year, and the winner gets a shot at the Triple Crown title, similar to how the winner of the New Japan Cup gets an IWGP World title shot. They put over Satoshi Kojima in this, and I guess they just don't have a ton of faith in a lot of their normal. But All Japan going through a rough patch, Jeremy. I bring this up because they have been working shows in Shinkaba First Ring. That's where they've had a couple of them. I don't know if you know, and of course I am a venue nerd when it comes to that stuff. Shinkaba First Ring holds about 150, 200 people at the most. It is a very small venue. It used to be where Stardom did a lot of their shows. Stardom's too big to go there anymore. Like there are shows in Tokyo or at Korakuen. So it's, All Japan not exactly packing them in. So they put over Satoshi Kojima maybe to sell tickets to this show here in Nagaoka. But in the end, he did not win the Triple Crown title. Of course, Yuji Nagata was the Triple Crown champion until pretty recently. And I mentioned here Satoshi Kojima last week spent many years in All Japan Pro Wrestling. He left when New Japan went in an MMA direction toward the end of Inoki's run. That was when companies like Pride and K1 were doing enormous numbers in Japan. It was kind of a fad. It turned out to be a fad. It really didn't last in Japan with that. But for a while, it looked like that's where the business was heading. At least Inoki thought so. And he started to incorporate a little more MMA into New Japan for some people's tastes, including Kojima's. And he and Kaiji Muto left and went to All Japan. So he spent years there. So he does have a long history with All Japan. He's held the Triple Crown title before. He's held the tag team titles there before. So they put him over in this tournament, but he lost to Yumo Aoyagi in 18 minutes and 12 seconds in the main event of that show in Nagaoka. But the show in Nagaoka drew 1,560 people. So fairly strong turnout considering in Tokyo, they're running Shinkaba First Ring, which holds a couple hundred.
Jeez. So they're not pulling the numbers that they could be. That's what it's like down in Japan right now. Everything's down, right?
Yeah, I mean, Stardom's not, but that's about it.
But all the men's wrestling is not hitting the levels that it used to.
Yeah, and we saw a couple of things. It was a mixed bag, wasn't it? The G1, because some of those early shows in the G1 were.
Yeah, we had a conversation about it where you were talking about these numbers and it's like
showed troubling patterns.
Not there.
But then the last bit, I mean, it is the G1 finals and things. Those were strong. Like the numbers were strong leading up the block finals and then the finals.
But even the match, even the show with Okada and Ospreay, with their match, like it didn't sell out.
No, it did not. No, it did not. So, there's certain things that, you wonder what it is. And I mean, the economy in Japan's not that great. It's a pretty weak yen and things like that. So there are always a lot of factors and stuff like this. The only company that seems to be steadily growing is Stardom at the moment. And, but Colin has some Stardom related thoughts we're going to get to. He says, can we please get the IWGP belt off Mayu Iwatani? Please put it on someone who's willing to go overseas to defend it. Well, I think that's what the strong title is for now. And I'm puzzled by it too. I don't understand why there's two different belts. But it does seem like the IWGP women's title is staying more in Japan and the strong title is the one, because Julia has a strong title. She's going to Las Vegas. Mayu's not. As it stands
it's like
right
you
now.
Put the meme of the two belts, the strong belt and the IWGP women's belt in a meme, and then you have another person say, it's the same belt.
So I don't think Mayu is sitting there just going, no, I'm not getting on a plane. I don't think that's what's happening. I think for whatever reason, they've just decided that belt stays. And, the funny thing is they used to have a belt that Mayu gave up, retired, the SWA belt. And that's a belt in Stardom that was the concept of it was you had to be from a different country to challenge for it. So what that did is it would bounce it from foreigner to a Japanese wrestler to a foreigner to a Japanese wrestler, and they could kind of make new foreigners that way. They would come in and win that belt, and you know, Mayu had that for a while, and then the pandemic happened. They didn't have any foreign wrestlers coming in, so they just kind of retired it. And that's almost what the IWGP Women's title is, like, kind of filling that spot of another singles belt, which they don't necessarily.
They should create a scenario where they have Mayo, whoever has the belt, versus Julia, or whoever has the belt, and the winner has the takeaway, goes everywhere with 2 belts, because that's all the fad. And
yes,
you're going everywhere that's stateside, and all of a sudden you're a Japanese wrestler with these 2 belts that look completely different. All of a sudden your mystique is elevated, because when you have both of these belts and 2 different people, surprise, you don't really have a belt, because they just feed off of each other.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see also, because there's another NJPW show in Garland, Texas, in the Dallas DFW
on November 10th, right?
Metroplex area, November 10th, which is only a couple of weeks after Las Vegas. I don't know if I'm going to be able to go to that one. I might, but because I'm down here in Austin, that's only a few hours away. But you know, but nothing's really announced for that one. We've got names for Las Vegas, and Julia is one of them, but nothing really announced, much announced for the Texas show. So,
that takes me into never mind. That actually does not interact with each other, because I was going to say I don't know if you talked about it last week, but the Super Junior Tag League dates have been announced, and then the World Tag League dates have been announced.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you got on that?
And I'll let you know that those right now, the Super Junior Tag League is going to start on October 21st, and there's going to be 10 dates that are going on that, ending on November 4th. Okay? The World Tag League, which is what the title of Bishamon holds, that is going to be, I think like 16 shows, starting on November 20th and ending on December 10th. So, a lot of tag teams, because we got 16 shows for the World Tag League.
That sounds like 2 blocks, doesn't it?
That sounds like a lot of tag teams. We might see Aussie Open back kind of thing for that one. I love it. There is a lot of roster spots to fill for something like that. You know, we may end up seeing Tanahashi and Yano as a tag team around that time. You know, Okan and Hinari. You know, all these guys that, you know, we're finally going to fill out the Wrestle Kingdom roster at that point. We're going to know the majority of the card by December 10th. But that's going to put a bow on it, and then they're going to go quiet for a couple weeks, and then they're going to go into overdrive after Christmas.
I'm hoping right now we get Yota Tsuji and Shingo as a team.
17 teams, 1 block.
Whoa. Brad says 17 and 1 block. That's
aggressive.
17 teams. How the hell do you do? I guess everybody gets a night off.
Everybody has a different night. So,
yeah.
I mean, yeah.
All right.
You have 1 block, but you have 1 tag team each night has a bye. And then 8 tag teams per night, and then you go back.
Okay. 17 events and 10 teams.
Oh.
Okay, now we're that makes a lot more sense.
But I was wrong.
No. Well, no, we have the information. So it's 17 events with 10 teams. So they're just spreading the matches out a little bit amongst those. All right. Well, I Shingo and Tsuji. I just asked that. That's my only request for World Tag League. I'd like to see that team. The other thing, by the way, Hiromu Takahashi has been traveling the world. He wrestled a special match at Nagaoka and defeated Rising Hayato, 14 minutes and 40 seconds there. Atsushi Onita was on that show too. So Onita began his career in the very early 80s with All Japan, then of course became the Japanese hardcore legend with FMW and the famous match at Kawasaki Stadium against Terry Funk in front of tens of thousands of fans, blowing each other up and carving each other up with barbed wire there. That was Atsushi Onita. And even at his advanced age, he was on that show too there. So in a multi-person tag, I'm sure he only did a couple of things, but so some New Japan talent and big names from the past brought out to draw that 1,500 people.
So you got some new names for your show in Vegas that you're going to.
Let's hear them.
We got Satoshi Kojima, Fred Rosser, Hikuleo, ELP, Alexander Coughlin and Kidd are going to be there. Cobb, Great Jeff Cobb is going to be there.
Great Cobb.
The Great Okab.
I'm sure
That
be their
would be a
team
great
name.
tag team. That's a great tag team
name.
for the World Tag League. The Great
That's
Okab.
the team. The Great Okab. Also the name of my corn restaurant.
Filthy, West Coast Wrestling Crew are all going to be there. Danny Limelight, Royce Isaac, Jor-El Nelson. I'm not exactly sure with the Super Junior Tag League going on at the same time exactly how many guys on there, but at the same time, how many people are coming for the junior heavyweight division of New Japan for this show.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to it, October 28th. So, yeah, that's I'm fired up about it. I haven't been back to Vegas in about over a year, so I'm excited about going back and catching that show. And yeah, it'd be neat to see. I think I'm the fourth or fifth row tickets, so should get a good view of it. That's not a very big arena. That Sam's Town Live venue, it's not very big. I mean that in a good way. It's just kind of raked, and it's not a gigantic building, so everybody there should not be a bad seat in the house. So if
I have a prediction for you.
Let's hear it.
You're going to get your money's worth.
There we go. I probably will. So yeah, and before we move on here, we just wanted to run down the title situations again. We know that the IWGP World Heavyweight title, Sonata versus Evil, will be at Ryogoku. Finlay and Tama Tonga for the Never titles, that will also be at Ryogoku. Those are October 9th. The UK-US title that Will Ospreay holds, that one is Destruction in Kobe, September 24th. And Zack Sabre Jr. has made overtures about challenging the winner at Royal Quest 3 in October. Let's see, Zack Sabre Jr. again against Boltin Oleg for the TV title. That is tomorrow at Korakuen Hall. No, okay, and we got this one here. USVA guy says, we'll see you there. Come see me at the Team NJPW USA booth. Oh, cool.
I think you have a date with the NJPW booth, my friend.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah.
I will tell you this. Get in line early.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. It's a pretty popular joint. And then Taichi and Sho will face each other for the King of Pro Wrestling title. We don't know any stipulations for that yet. And then we have Bishamon and TMDK. That's in Kobe, September 24th. Trios title we talked about will be this coming weekend. And then another one, two more for Ryogoku. That Ryogoku show is loaded. Junior heavyweight title, Hiromu Takahashi, Leo Rush, and Mike Bailey. Man, I can't wait. And then the junior heavyweight tag, Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors against Kevin Knight and Kushida. That will be at Ryogoku also. And for the NJPW Strong title, I don't think we have anything officially for Eddie Kingston yet. But he not long ago defeated Wheeler Utah on Dynamite to defend the title.
He should be orbiting with Hinare, right?
Right, that's the thing. But we don't know when that match is going to come. But it'll be there. Maybe that one's for Texas. Who knows? I don't know.
I would not be shocked if that was at Wrestle Dream.
Oh, maybe so.
Yeah, maybe they do that because I don't know when they're doing Claudio versus Eddie Kingston, which is obviously the match that they need to do at some point.
Sure.
They don't have another Ring of Honor pay-per-view until December. They would ideally main event a Ring of Honor pay-per-view in December. Can you keep this going for another 3 months and be compelling between Claudio and Eddie? Yes. Do I ideally want that to be the case? Absolutely not.
The NJPW Strong Tag Team titles will be defended at Ryogoku on the 9th. That's El Phantasmo and Hikuleo challenging Gabe Kidd and Alex Coughlin. Let's see. The Mayu Iwatani does not have a current IWGP Women's title match in the future scheduled. And, of course, we don't know who Julia's opponent will be in Las Vegas either. So, and then, of course, a side note, we have the best of 7, and then the title shot briefcase match, Naito against Jeff Cobb, Destruction in Kobe. So that's what's coming up.
I'm excited.
There's some good stuff in there.
I have missed New Japan. As much as I love the G1 is a different beast. I was thinking about this the other day when I was getting ready for the show, and it's you got two halves of New Japan. You've got Wrestle Kingdom to Dominion with the New Japan Cup in between and a little bit of a chase going from point A to point B with the title hunt and the makeovers and whatever you're going to do to just reset the year. Then you have the G1. Then you're setting up G1 to Wrestle Kingdom. And then there's this 4-month period where it's just okay, here we go. We're just going to burn off some feuds. We're going to have people wrestling each other, maybe give you a payoff to a thing you weren't even asking for, like the end of Suzuki-gun last year at 2022. But this is a really interesting time for New Japan because it's just kind of like, okay, you can really go hard and have some interesting feuds and stuff, or you can just sit on your ass because either way, people are going to be showing up for Wrestle Kingdom unless you have some really hot stuff going in ahead of time.
Yeah, and let's see, we have Brad saying that he would not be surprised to see a Momo Kogo match added to the Vegas show. She comes in since she can translate for Julia. It's a very good point. And they've used Momo over here a lot, so she's familiar to that audience, and would be a match that Julia could win, and it would probably be pretty good because Momo's talented. I mentioned before, Momo is almost the Bushi of stars. That faction over there it's just such a loaded friggin' faction, and someone has to do the jobs for it. And now that Hanan's getting pushed, it's poor Momo is the one that has to take those losses, but a really talented wrestler. So, and we saw that because she was good against what was it, against Willow, right? Shouldn't she? Yeah, Willow beat her in that the tournament before she got to Mercedes. So yeah. That's a good point. I'd like to see that. That'd be good.
So what else we got to cover? Any news or notes or anything?
Well, a few weeks ago.
Yeah, are we doing it? We're
doing it. We kept mentioning that, you talked about Toru Yano and the Clown Prince of New Japan. And I mentioned that I kind of miss the old ultra-violent Yano.
Murder Yano.
You were wondering about a little more information on the guy. So I put together a little something. Would you like to hear about how Toru Yano...
I'll talk to Murder Yano. Let's do it.
So he was born in Tokyo, and he was a Greco-Roman wrestler, and he won amateur titles at Nihon University. Now, Nihon University is one of the leading private universities in Japan. So he's a pretty sharp cookie, actually. And you would know that if you follow him on social media. He has a lot of interests. Seems like a pretty erudite guy right there. But there is no equivalent as far as an Oxbridge in England or a Ivy League in the U.S. to Japan. The educational system just worked differently. But the college he went to is not for dummies. Like you have to be pretty smart to get into that one. So smart guy and a good Greco-Roman wrestler. And, Brad also just mentioned that the rumors of Stephanie Vaquer will be taking on Julia. I'm in for that too. She acquitted herself.
I think they were talking about Momo Kogo having a match as well as Julia.
Oh, I see what you mean. So not that Momo would be challenging, but she would also be on the show.
She would also be on the show in some way, shape, or form.
Good deal. So Yano began training in January of 2022. He debuted in May of that year. So again, this was not the usual young lion path. He came in and debuted only a few months later. It was on his 24th birthday. So he graduated college and everything. He lost to the Blue Wolf. Was the guy that he was around. He was around for a few years, Blue Wolf was. And his early opponents were Katsuyori Shibata, Kenzo Suzuki, El Samurai, one of the great junior heavies of the time, Hiro Saito. So he was thrown in there with some decent wrestlers, but his first win didn't come until September 17th of that year at Korakuen Hall. And that was when he was on the winning side of a tag match with Yutaka Yoshi. They beat Saito and Tatsutoshi Goto, not the current Goto, a different Goto. We have records of 35 losses between then. So he was living life as a young wrestler in New Japan, losing mostly in around 5 minutes or so until he finally got that one tag win. He had one MMA fight in Pancrase, which is an old kind of an MMA work shoot promotion where most of the undercard were shoots, but they would work the main events to protect the stars. That's one thing they did. King of Pancrase was a title that Ken Shamrock held that for a while and things. He lost that fight, though, in the second round. Armbar submission right there. Again, Greco-Roman wrestler, so not really an MMA fighter. So mostly a mid-carder for all of 2003. His record there was 32-71-1. So working his way up, right? Here's when the key happens. April 2004. He turns heel by becoming fed up with all the losses. He dyed his hair blonde. He just had his regular dark hair there. Started losing his matches by DQ, which is not something that's done in New Japan often and wasn't then either. Manabu Nakanishi and Kensuke Sasaki were frequent opponents, so while he was losing by disqualification, the quality of opposition was going up. He was starting to get attention by just breaking rules and going a little crazy. He was also starting to bring a little bit of whiskey to the ring. And I know he would drink out of this years for the past years. He's been doing the spray bottle thing since the pandemic. Before that, he would drink out of a bottle of water and spray the mist in the air. Right. That was what he did during his introduction when they would introduce his name. That started out as whiskey. So a little bit of Uncle Nobu there before Nobu was doing it. So, he was just, the idea was this guy's coming down, pounding down whiskey, beating the shit out of people and getting DQ'd. So some of his other opposition from that time was Adam Pearce, WWE commissioner, Suzuki, American Dragon, Bryan Danielson was all in there, Tanahashi, Masachono. So again, he's facing top guys at this point. And Adam Pearce, who wasn't bad, by the way, in New Japan. He was actually pretty good there. He joined up with Masachono's Black New Japan, which was the shadow New Japan faction, anti-establishment group, and then began teaming up.
Pre-Bullet Club, before Bullet Club.
Began teaming up with Togi Makabe regularly. And this was his first real push all the way toward the top. He was, at this point, he had risen from being an opening carder to somebody who would cause chaos in the mid card. Now, teaming with Makabe, he made the finals of an IWGP under 30 open weight tournament, lost in the finals there to Tanahashi, but made the finals. And his first G1 was in 2005. So now he's all the way up to entering G1 tournaments. His first in a regular series of matches with Suzuki was in September of 2005. So you wonder when they have that backstory of meeting up and Yano finding ways to stymie Minoru Suzuki. That goes all the way back to 2005 when these two were tormenting one another. And October 7th of that year, Yano and Takashi Iizuka lost to Shinsuke Nakamura and Tanahashi. That was their welcome back match after Nakamura and Tanahashi had gone to Mexico for a few weeks. So that was a pretty prominent spot right there. And yes, they lost it, but it was in the main event to Nakamura and Tanahashi.
Sure. No shame in that.
No, and he won his first title in Germany. Actually, he on October of 2005, he and Kendo Kashin won the EWP tag team titles. They faced Robbie Brookside, Dave Taylor. So he started seeing some British style there, some of that Blackpool wrestling. Came back and dropped the cheating when he came back to Japan and did not get DQ'd anymore. And this is part of the story, but he didn't have success. So he came back and he said, all right, I'm going to try to wrestle. And it didn't work. He kept teaming with Makabe, but he was still in the mid card until he began a different team with Tomohiro Ishii in March of 2006. That's when he began feuding with Makabe because he's blamed Makabe, dumped Makabe, teamed up with Ishii. That went through the summer. And he did not make that G1, but it would be big for him for another reason. Tenzan won the G1 that year, and he beat Satoshi Kojima in the finals. He also beat Masachono, his mentor, and he announced that he was forming the GBH and leaving Black New Japan. So Tenzan beat Chono, won the G1, and said, I'm breaking away from Chono, and I'm going to form GBH, Great Bash Heel. This is going to become very important for several people's careers. Makabe and Shiro Koshinaka were his first two additions. Ishii and Yano then joined up. So there it was. It stood for Great Bash Heel and also Grievous Bodily Harm, to give you an idea of how GBH was portrayed at the time. So they were pretty violent heels at this point. Tenzan ended up having to take time off for injuries, go figure. And Makabe ascended to the leadership spot. Yano and Ishii were regular partners still at this point. And he won the WEW title, which is a belt that began in FMW wrestling, passed through various promotions. So he was, at this point, an upper mid-card guy. He's not exactly having main events, but he is no longer losing in the mid-card or anything else there. He's starting to win belts in various places and things. He competed in the 2007 G1. He finished third in Block B, only 2 points behind Nakamura, only one behind Tanahashi. So he's starting to get figured into things. Eventually, Makabe turned again. And they formed the most violent players with Makabe and all that. So at this point, they're in the GBH stable. Tenzan is kind of out of things.
And what year is this?
This is around 2007.
Okay.
So Tenzan was supposed to lead the GBH stable. That was the plan, but he got hurt. And Makabe had taken it over. They were the top team in the company because when Tenzan did come back, Makabe overthrew him. He just said, that was the whole thing. Tenzan comes back, and Makabe said, "My group now. I'm not willing to give it back to you." They beat Giant Bernard and Travis Tonko to win the IWGP Tag Team titles on
that is a blast from the past.
On February 17th, 2008. So at this point, Makabe and the most violent players, Makabe and Yano, are the World Tag Team Champions. They took those titles all the way to the finals of the 2008 G1 Tag League, beating Nakamura and Goto in the finals before losing to Tenkozy. So obviously, they set that whole thing up with being overthrown, and then Tenzan teamed up with his old rival Kojima and faced off against the people that had tossed him out of his own group. So there you go. It took the most legendary tag team of the era to beat him, a 322-day reign for the most violent players atop the you didn't know all this, did you? That Toru Yano at one point, main event level tag team heel.
I was not aware of it, but it doesn't surprise me at the same time.
Yeah, and in April of 2009, another key thing happened. Shinsuke Nakamura left the Rise stable, R-I-S-E, and he left Goto as a stablemate and formed Chaos. This is when Yano turned on Makabe in a big title match and joined up with Nakamura. And, of course, Goto would later replace Nakamura in Chaos, but this was the formation of Chaos. So once again, similar to Bullet Club, you don't have peaceful transitions of power anywhere. You're always overthrown by somebody. So at that point, the tag team, longtime tag team, most violent players was done. Nakamura and Yano went to the semis of the G1 Tag League together, and they lost to Prince Devitt and Ryusuke Taguchi. That was the big match there. And he faced Rob Van Dam in Wrestle Kingdom 5 in a hardcore match. So some interesting things there about him. In 2010, he feuded with Hiroshi Tanahashi, including Yano and Masato Tanaka cutting off some of Tanahashi's hair. And that led to a hair versus hair match at Dominion that year. And you can imagine the thought of Tanahashi having his head shaved, filling the girls with horror, and that being terrifying. Of course, Yano was the one that took the head shaving in that one.
Was that the end of his bleached hair or no?
No, he had the bleached hair for a little while longer after that, but it was starting to come back a little bit. He feuded with Tajiri and a little bit more with Makabe. So his matches were with powerhouses like Makabe, ECW guys, Yoshihiro Tajiri, doing really violent stuff for the most part there. So he was in with bruisers or hardcore dudes. In May 3rd of 2012, he and Iizuka beat Tenkozy for the tag team titles again. But they went to a wild no contest with them in a return match on June 20th, so the titles were held up. And on July 22nd, about a month later, they had a rematch. Tenkozy beat them to regain the titles. So that were his two main IWGP tag team title runs. His feud with Suzuki began as well and spilled over all the way into Noah when Suzuki-gun were banished from New Japan, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to go be the top heels in Noah when New Japan was working with Noah. Geto and Jado were booking those two companies together at that point. And so that they sent that feud over there. He held the GHC tag team titles with Marufuji and also with Iizuka at that point. So he was a Noah guy for a little while. And with this, that when he came back from that, when the Noah run was over, that is when we started to see the transition. Chaos began to follow the same pattern we've seen with other heel factions. They're the biggest assholes when they first form, right? They're the most hated. It's happened with LIJ. It happened with Suzuki-gun when they came back at New Year's Dash. United Empire. It's happened with almost everybody. And until there's another group that comes along to take that crown. Well, Bullet Club began a couple of years after Chaos was formed. And then we saw Suzuki-gun. I mentioned LIJ. And only Bullet Club stays heel, even though they go through their own phases in order to stay that way. Different guys come in as leaders and things. And just like the other groups besides Bullet Club, Chaos evolved to babyface status. And Yano's violent behavior became directed toward heels. So, of course, the crowd was starting to pop for it. And then he began doing things to humiliate the heels. And that was intended to make them look silly, pull their pants down, tie them to the ring post, tie them to the barricades.
Play the game.
Just being silly. And that made the crowd laugh, but that evolved into goofier and sillier behavior until the really violent stuff kind of faded away. And what we're left with is the Clown Prince style of Yano. we mentioned that also Toru Yano might be the smartest guy in the entire company because he can do this match for the rest of his life and never get hurt. But if you're looking at how he became this, it was really that the really more violent guy turns babyface. And it's almost like how the sheep herders became the bushwhackers, where he turned almost into silliness instead of violence.
Bro, there's so many different ways for longevity in this business. Good for Yano. Good.
Yeah,
for him.
no. Yeah. And one of just a little codas to this is we're almost out of time. He did come back and teamed with Ishii again, and of course, and formed the team within Chaos. He beat the Gorillas of Destiny and Makabe and Honma in a 3-way to win the tag team titles, lost them back to Tenkozy. And then the whole thing with Makabe, they began doing, Makabe eventually saved him from a beating in late 2019. And believe it or not, Jeremy, that's the first time they had in storyline made peace since the formation of Chaos. That was the first time that they shook hands.
7 years.
Yeah, in 2019 was the first time they really did that.
I remember that now.
And of course, they used him to create the King of Pro Wrestling title. He held the provisional title for the first couple of years.
Like 2 years?
Yes, the first two, and they did mostly goofy stipulations rather than the more
legitimized version that Shingo did
with Taichi. Yeah, so there you have it, and that's kind of the evolution of Yano into what we see today.
Awesome. I love it when guys are like, yeah, I'm going to just make over myself so that I can keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm not going to be doing these death matches anymore.
Yeah, he has a lot of interest, and if you look at his Instagram, he has a pretty highly regarded bar restaurant.
Do you think I use Instagram? Weird.
What can I say? You're too busy on the Discords.
Oh, man, I'm too busy, trying to have a life.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we're just about out of time. So, Jeremy, I just want to say thank you. We're glad you're back. Welcome back.
Be back
when we come back next week, we're going to review these shows, the two Korakuen shows in Chiba. We're going to look ahead to the shows coming up the following weekend. We'll talk about what's going on.
We'll be speaking of strong style every week here on out.
Yeah, and Brad mentions one other thing. He was also the first never Openweight Six-Man champion with the Briscoes. So, yeah, that's also true. A lot of things going on there with Yano. I was just trying to shave some time. So, as it turns out, we are going to be back next week to review those shows, preview other things. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
I just thanks for watching, everybody. Really appreciate it. A lot going on in my life, so I do not take it for granted that people are stopping listening to me wax poetic about New Japan Pro Wrestling as if I'm some kind of expert. I just thank you guys.
Yeah, we're grateful to all of you guys for watching us here live. Grateful to everybody who listens as a podcast or here on YouTube later. Just thank you. Like he said, we couldn't be luckier to do a show every week where we get to talk about the promotion that we love so much. And because of you guys, we get to keep doing it.
I'm wearing my pride from Post Wrestling right up here.
Oh yeah, that's your prize right there, isn't it? For your G1 win. Very well done. I
got a shirt and I got a hat, and I decided to wear the hat. And I was like, I got a nice hat on tonight.
All right. So for the G1 prediction winning contest winning Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. Thanks for watching. Speaking of Strong Style or listening to it, whatever works for you, we're happy to have you, and we will talk to you again very soon.